Hello everyone, and welcome to the Apps Associates webinar, Oracle Hybrid BI. My name is Julian Troke, and I'm the Marketing Director here at Apps Associates, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined by our speaker, Miles Gilfinen, who is the BI Practice Director at Apps Associates. So Miles is going to take us through quite a nice story about Oracle Hybrid BI and how that might be deployed for your organization. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the chat window, and I'll ask those questions on your behalf at the end. I also want to let you know that we are recording this webinar, and the slides that we use and the recording that we make will be sent out to you tomorrow via email. Now, Apps Associates has been working very closely with Oracle BI for many years, and we've got a lot of experience with BI in the cloud. And as a result, Oracle chose Apps Associates to be the 2016 Partner of the Year, particularly for our work on BI Cloud Service, which was a great accolade, and we're very proud of that. You'll see the logos here on the first slide of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand over to our speaker to describe Oracle Hybrid BI in detail. So Miles, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Julian. As Julian said, my name is Miles Gilfinen. I'm a Practice Director and Solution Architect in our Analytics practice. Very excited and pleased to be able to speak with you today. Lots of good ground to cover, lots of options, real maturity in the cloud. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk about, why the cloud for BI, brief overview of Oracle's BI Cloud Services and data visualization. Then we're going to talk about the roadmap to Cloud BI and the scenarios for deploying BI to the cloud. And that's really the heart of today's discussion. Then in number 4 there, we'll talk about the accelerators that Apps Associates has to help in that journey to the cloud. And then 5, talk about some next steps, and then we'll have time for some question and answer at the end. So first, why the cloud for BI? I'm sure nobody here is new to the cloud in the sense that they haven't heard of it, but let's talk about what the cloud brings. So first is flexibility, agility, and self-service. So especially in the BI world, users now have many years of Excel, and even in the last recent years, self-service for virtually everything in their lives. And it's no different when they come in the office and they deal with their analytical data sets. They want to be able to manipulate those and do what they need to do. And the cloud is excellent for that. Very flexible, very agile in the sense of being able to modify. Faster innovation. And Oracle itself has been very upfront about its innovation is going to occur in the cloud first. And one thing, if you think about it, it makes sense. If you're able to own the technology stack, so Oracle now does not have to worry about 5 different operating systems and 3 different versions of each one and 4 databases and 5 application servers. They're owning the technology stack in Cloud BI, and they can accelerate their innovation and deliver innovative solutions at a much more rapid pace. The analytics on the cloud are really second to none, and the visualizations. And what we're seeing on the cloud is some advanced analytics, able to connect to R for statistical analysis, and more advanced type analytics, linear regression, that kind of thing. Fast time to value, the cloud right straight away. It doesn't have anything to do with setting up data centers and installing software and is the capital budget approved and all that. You're up and running very, very quickly. And lower cost. It's a shift to a more streamlined operating expense. There's not a heavy upfront capital cost. You can get up and running quickly. You don't have the same risk factor in terms of all the capital outlays and then maybe it doesn't work or it's not exact. So a lot of benefits to the cloud, and the scalability is there. Virtually all the cloud platforms, certainly Oracle is very scalable. If you need more computing resources, if you need a larger database, very, very scalable. You don't have to get it right the first time. Okay, so let's talk about the theme of today. So the theme of today is many paths to the same goal, Cloud BI. So you might be sitting there wondering, well, my setup is different. I have this, I have that. Nobody goes to the cloud the same way. Virtually no organization goes to the cloud in one fell swoop. Very, very difficult. Normally start with certain types of applications, certain types of analytics, but over time the gravitational pull of the cloud for many applications is kind of irresistible. So there's many ways to get to that summit, to get to Cloud BI. That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about those scenarios. So each of these scenarios we will talk about today, and each of these scenarios is basically the answer to 3 questions. Where's the source system? Where's the data at reporting time? It has to be somewhere. I think we all know that. And is that data in a transaction system or a data warehouse? Now, True, in a sense. It doesn't really matter. Both are databases or systems of some sort. But the data warehouse typically is designed for reporting, and it takes reporting cycles away from the transaction system. The transaction system typically is used for different purposes, more real-time type reporting, less historical trend reporting. Let's talk through the scenarios. The first scenario is relatively straightforward. The source systems are on-premise. At the time we're reporting, the data is in the cloud. So the data has been moved to the cloud, and it's in a data warehouse. So we've moved the data into the cloud in a data warehouse. Pretty straightforward. This is the way a lot of people go to the cloud. We say data warehouse. It could be a data mart. It's just a phrase, but I think you know what I mean. Now, the second scenario is similar to the first, but we make it just a little bit more complex. We say, well, we have some on-prem systems, but we also have some cloud systems. Our company has started to branch out to the cloud for certain applications, and we want to bring it together in the cloud. The data is going to be in the cloud at the time we're reporting on it, whether it's from an on-prem system or the cloud. And it's going to be either in a data warehouse or a transaction system. Transaction system would be a cloud-based transaction system. In this third scenario, we shift gears and kind of look the other way. What we're saying in the third scenario is, hey, I've got on-prem systems. I don't want to move the data to the cloud, but I really do want to get the benefits of cloud BI, all the flexibility and agility, and a lower cost structure. Can I use the cloud to report against my on-prem systems? The answer is yes, and we're going to show you how. Okay, scenario 4 has got all the check marks. This is the most complex scenario, but it had to be shown, and it's one that is more common than you might think, and we're working with some customers who have this scenario. So in this scenario, the source systems are a mix of on-prem and cloud. The data at reporting time is a mix of on-prem and cloud. So we're reporting against some data in the cloud. We're also reporting directly against some on-prem systems, and the systems against which we're reporting are a mix. Some are data warehouses set up for reporting, and some are transaction systems for more real-time operational type reporting. Okay, now this fifth scenario, we're going to talk about an option that has fairly recently been available, and this is to run Oracle's BI applications. They're historically on-prem BI applications on Oracle PaaS. That's Platform as a Service. So that is leveraging the cloud, leveraging Oracle's cloud, Oracle specifically the cloud platform as a service capability. And in that scenario, the source system would be on-prem. It would be an Oracle ERP system. The data would be in the cloud in a data warehouse. And we've also checked this box because we're going to show how you can also bring in some cloud-based systems into that pre-built data warehouse that Oracle has. Okay, so let's jump in. A lot of meat here, and we'll try to get through it all. So first, let's talk about BICS. This is Oracle's cloud service, and it's built on the proven technology of Oracle. It is integrated with Oracle's cloud database service. Built-in mobile, you don't have to do anything to get mobile. The administration is pretty simple, and it is a monthly subscription basis. So this is software as a service. This is monthly subscription. There's no kind of ongoing maintenance fees, that kind of thing. So BICS has been out in the market now and begin to gain a bit of a reputation. The reputation is very easy to explore, very easy to use, but powerful. It is an enterprise platform. That's perhaps one of the differentiators. It's definitely an enterprise platform that can scale to the enterprise. At the same time, it's able to be rapidly deployed for kind of sandbox type analytics. And it's got mashup capabilities, so you can easily blend your personal data with your managed data. It also includes Oracle Data Visualization. Now, at the moment, in BICS itself, it's called Visual Analyzer, so I'm going to use those two terms interchangeably, but Oracle is in the process of rebranding to Oracle Data Visualization. I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. One of the hallmarks of Oracle's BI Cloud Platform, as you will see, is flexibility of data. So data can be loaded from really virtually anywhere, whether it's on-prem systems, Excel sheets, the cloud, and there are multiple ways of loading data, which I'll show you. You can use REST APIs and standard ETL. There's a tool called Data Sync that allows you to load from on-premise or cloud systems. You can import, and you can query your on-prem databases. Now, one of the things we also want to point out is the easy modeling capability. So self-service is a term that you're probably familiar with. Most of the time it relates to users putting together reports, but self-service as a concept is moving up the data supply chain, and increasingly users are wanting to get involved in the preparation tasks. And Fact of the matter is they've been doing it for many, many years in Excel and access-based systems, whether it's including, excluding, filtering, creating hierarchies. All of these preparatory tasks users have been doing, although it's mostly been kind of Excel and access type formats. Well, that knowledge and capability and skill set can be leveraged in the modeling platform of BICS. Very straightforward for a user with some experience to basically get up and running with their data set and marrying it up with other data sets. So pretty powerful capability. The reporting with answers and dashboards is very, very powerful, and you're basically able to create executive dashboards with all the analytics and radar gauges and that kind of thing, all the way down to transaction listings, if you like. And it renders on any mobile device, again, without any coding. So, and you can also author from a mobile device. You can create queries from a mobile device. Now, this slide is talking about the data visualization capability. These are some screen prints. Due to the time constraints and just the volume of material to go through with respect to hybrid BI, we're not doing a demo today. We will have other webinars with demos, and of course, there's a lot of demos on the internet as well where you can see Visual Analyzer. Very, very powerful tool, very intuitive. The kind of thing where users can really get their arms around a data set and understand or discover the relationships among the data in a very natural way, like you might do with an Excel pivot table. So very powerful with self-service data discovery, supports blending and mashups. The visualizations are really quite appealing and stunning. And we were, lucky enough to kind of get an advanced preview of the next version. And, innovation in the cloud is kind of no lie. So there'll be even more visualizations coming. It leverages visual grammar, the kind of emerging visual grammar that's common across a number of platforms. So sophisticated analytics, and it's got trellising, and it's got a streamlined dashboard approach. So let's get into these scenarios. And this is really going to be the heart of the presentation because we really want to convey to you the different ways that you can deploy Cloud BI. So in this first scenario, we're going to have on-prem systems, and we've got Oracle BI in the cloud. And all these scenarios will have Oracle BI in the cloud. And I just want to explain this very quickly. When you go with Oracle Business Intelligence in the cloud, what comes with your subscription is Schema as a Service. So that's basically getting a database schema that comes with it. You don't need to do anything extra for that. And you also get the Visual Analyzer tool, which is, again, being rebranded data visualization. So you get that with your subscription. Also, over time, if your data grows or you need some of the other capabilities, you can move to Database as a Service, and BICS natively connects to Database as a Service. So you'll be seeing this graphic all the time. You'll always get Schema as a Service and Visual Analyzer. There is also a desktop version of Visual Analyzer that comes with your BICS subscription as well. Also very powerful visualization. So let's talk about the ETL and data integration options to get on-premise data up into the cloud. The fact of the matter is there are multiple. So there is a piece of software from Oracle called BICS Data Sync that I'll speak to in a second. It's really emerging as a hub type of software because it can connect to virtually any on-premise system, any cloud-based system, and load into Oracle Schema as a Service or Database as a Service. So very powerful of a hub. If you want to do some custom development and you want to leverage the REST API of BICS, you can do that. You can also use Oracle Data Integrator. You're perhaps familiar with Oracle Data Integrator. It's the full-fledged ETL platform of Oracle, very powerful and capable. That can be used as well to load into Schema as a Service or Database Service. And, of course, you can do file upload and import right into the database if you like. Very easy interface. You can just upload right into the database. So relatively straightforward. You would pick your option of choice and load into either Schema as a Service or a Database as a Service. And BICS Data Sync does support scheduling. You can do multiple loads throughout the day. You could even do a trickle feed if you like. The other thing I wanted to mention, I'm not going to draw this line every time, but always available is this direct upload to Visual Analyzer. So if you have some offline Excel information and you want to upload that to Visual Analyzer, you can always do that, and the system will suggest to you the best way to join that data with enterprise data that's already up there in your database. So you get to leverage your offline data with your enterprise data. So let's talk about BICS Data Sync. So BICS Data Sync, as I mentioned, emerging as a hub, so it can connect to on-premise cloud or big data sources, load into Schema as a Service or DBaaS, And in the latest version, it now supports natively connecting to any Oracle SaaS application, that's a cloud application, that has OBIEE, another acronym, of course, but that stands for Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence. That's a reporting metadata layer that sits on top of those Oracle cloud systems. And what it winds up doing is makes the interface much easier. You don't have to understand the underlying data model of those Oracle SaaS applications. You don't have to code your own scripts. What you can do with DataSync is leverage this metadata layer and pull out the objects that you need. Do you need GL balances? Do you need GL transactions? Do you need headcount? Do you need invoices? All of those objects are predefined. So it makes the interface to those cloud applications much easier. Also in the latest version, they've expanded to have connections to some of the more common big data platforms as well as Salesforce. So when you go into DataSync, you're going to see a Salesforce option. You can natively, using a prepackaged JDBC, Java Database Connectivity driver, write to Salesforce. And some of these big data databases, Mongo, Postgres, Hive, etc. And really, any database that allows JDBC connectivity or any data source, BICS can connect to. Okay, so let's talk about why you would use this. Well, let's say you've got a short time frame and you want to use the 80-20 rule. You don't need hundreds and hundreds of reports. You need to get up and running on some analytics. You need to do it in a quick amount of time. You don't want to invest in capital infrastructure. This would be a great scenario to pursue. Maybe you're using some of these older on-premise reporting platforms like FSG for EBS or IR Brio or Discoverer. They tend to be not as modern in terms of dashboarding capabilities and drill down capability. And there might even be a skill set shortage on those. Those tend not to be used as often. Plus, at least in the case of Discover and Brio, they're going out of support. So this BI Cloud Service is a great way to get off that. Maybe you're going through an acquisition and you're pulling in a company and you need to really get some analytics up quickly for that company. Great way to do it. And then, of course, demanding end users, that kind of never stops, and that's a good thing. That makes change happen. So it's a great way to get users singing your praises from a front-end perspective. Constrained capital budgets. Company needs to move to the cloud. You want to go with it. You want to get out ahead of those on-prem systems. This is a great way to get a foothold in the cloud. And, of course, if you're going to move your data to the cloud, you must not have any impediments, regulatory or otherwise. Benefits. So it's going to take the reporting load off the transaction system in many cases, not all cases. Maybe you have a data warehouse. What we found is the self-service in the cloud reduces the IT burden. It really doesn't matter what platforms are. IT is often very, very busy, and the increased self-service allows IT to kind of focus on other activities, potentially more strategic activities. And there's a number of benefits that you get just from using the cloud: time value, maintenance, expense, et cetera. Kind of talked about those. What are the drawbacks and challenges to this? Well, it's not inherently real time. You're moving the data to the cloud, and therefore there's going to be some latency. But having said that, you can do multiple loads per day. You can even do a trickle feed via DataSync. So there certainly are ways around that, but that might be one drawback. We just want to talk about some of the enabling platforms that we have to help deploy this scenario and really all the scenarios we're going to talk about. So we have BICS application accelerators, and I'm going to talk later about these. I really want to focus on the scenarios and the way you deploy these. But these are full-blown analytical applications. They leverage Oracle's BI Cloud Service. We have pre-built ETL from the Oracle, the main Oracle ERP platform. So this is a great way to get up and running quickly. We also have methodologies and utilities for moving off some of those on-prem reporting systems, whether it's FSG or Hyperion Interactive Reporting, otherwise, or used to be called Brio, or Discover. So we have methodologies and utilities to quickly move off of those. So let's move on to scenario 2. Similar to scenario 1, we have on-prem, but now we've got some cloud-based systems. Very common. We're seeing this a lot. People are starting to branch out into the cloud. For the on-prem systems, we have the same ETL and data integration options. Really, any of those would work. And for the cloud-based systems, now in this scenario, purposely, you'll see these are all Oracle cloud-based systems. In the next scenario, I'll bring in some non-Oracle. Let's stick with Oracle for a moment. So all of these cloud-based systems can be loaded into BICS through Oracle BICS DataSync. As I mentioned, it's set up to extract from Financial Cloud and Service Cloud. For Oracle Taleo, there's a cloud adapter specifically for Taleo that would create files that Oracle BICS DataSync could then load into scheme as a service and database as a service. So in that manner, and having done that, you are presenting to your users a unified front end that is covering both the cloud and on-premise, and not in a one-off fashion. Due to the way the data modeling works in BICS, you would have a logical representation of both your on-premise and cloud systems, and your users can interact with those as though they were all connected. If you need to see finance data from the cloud and you need to see HR data from on-prem, you can do that in one report through this one interface, this Oracle Cloud interface. So it can be very powerful. The other thing I wanted to mention, once you have these cloud-based systems, Oracle Visual Analyzer can connect directly to Oracle SaaS applications through the OTBI, that's Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence endpoints. So Visual Analyzer can access that interface, and you can basically run reports directly against those systems from Visual Analyzer, from this BI cloud service. So again, making it easy on your users for kind of a single platform for full access. All right, so now we're going to go to scenario 2B. So very much like the scenario we just talked about, but we're going to bring in some non-Oracle systems. So we're going to bring in Salesforce and Workday. So I think most folks would agree, fairly common. For on-prem, we have the same set of options. Let's talk about cloud. So we just talked about the Oracle stuff. So for Salesforce, BICS Data Sync in the latest version is set up to natively connect to Salesforce. So you'll be connecting to Salesforce, and you're able to pull all the main objects out of Salesforce. For Workday, you need to use essentially their front end to extract data into files, and then from that point, you can use BICS Data Sync to load into Scheme as a Service or Database as a Service. Now, Apps Associates has a sales analytics accelerator for the cloud, and for that, we have a pre-built integration to Salesforce where we'll pull out all the major objects, opportunities, contacts, all that kind of thing. We also have an HR accelerator where we have HR analytics for compensation, headcount, retention, etc. And we have a pre-built integration with Workday that feeds into that accelerator, because basically those two are, fairly common. It just made sense to go ahead and pre-build those integrations. They can be modified, of course. And then from that point, again, you're loading into Scheme as a Service, Database as a Service. Same benefits of a unifying reporting metadata layer in BICS that allows your users to access cloud and on-premise systems without having to be aware of really what system they're connecting to, and is it on-premise or is it in the cloud. And Visual Analyzer can connect, as we mentioned. So let's talk about when you might want to use this. So this scenario is, you don't want to move cloud data to on-prem. You're starting to branch out to the cloud, but you don't want to take that cloud data back to on-prem. That is an option. It's not one we're showing here, but you could do that. But you're kind of swimming upstream at that point. You need analytics across both cloud and on-prem systems, and you're wanting to bring it together in the cloud, and that's quite common. Your company has a cloud migration strategy. And here's another one. You're wanting to avoid point solution and multiple versions of the truth. Many folks might remember the single version of the truth versus multiple versions of the truth. That is starting to come back a little bit as the cloud gains a bit more traction. The reason that is, there's a lot of vendors in the cloud that have these kind of point solutions that might be very functional, but they wind up creating an information silo, and you wind up coming back to these multiple versions of the truth, which at a departmental level might be acceptable, but when you get up to senior management that are running a global business unit, or perhaps the whole company, you really need that single version of the truth. So there is still this need to make sure that across platforms, there's one presentation. So this could be a great way to do it, bringing it together in the cloud. Benefits, same as scenario one. So this allows an incremental movement to the cloud, and that was one of the major themes here. The cloud is a technology that's very hard, virtually impossible to go to in one fell swoop across all your functional areas. It's just quite difficult to do that. So what winds up happening is, this area has a system, this area has a system. And from a BI standpoint, you really need to transcend both those environments and provide analytics, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem. Another benefit is it prevents lock-in on the older on-prem technologies. So when you go to the cloud, if you load it back in, you do risk locking in on perhaps some older technologies that are being used on-prem, and then later on having to deal with getting off those technologies when, maybe for at least the cloud-based systems, you could have started in the cloud right straight away. The other benefit is, it brings together the data, and it will support real-time against the cloud-based systems. If you need to report real-time, you can do that against the cloud-based systems. What are the drawbacks? Well, at least for the data being moved to the cloud from on-prem, it's not inherently real-time, and you might wind up with multiple integration processes across cloud systems, or portions of them could be different. In other words, how do we get the data out of Workday? But you could use BICS Data Sync as a hub, but you might have some different integration processes. Now, we, as I mentioned, have a lot of enabling platforms. We have a number of pre-built integrations. So we've got Workday, Taleo, Salesforce, Financials. I kind of ran out of room. We also have pre-built integrations for the HCM cloud and the procurement cloud. Pre-built accelerators for, I'll show them later, but sales, HR, finance, procurement, and the utilities that I mentioned. So now let's talk about this third scenario, which is common. We've got a number of requests for this. And in this scenario, the data's in the on-prem systems, and we want to report against it on-prem. But we want to use BI in the cloud. We want to get the benefit of BI in the cloud. So I'm going to introduce a relatively new capability from Oracle, and that's called Remote Data Connector. And this is an Oracle piece of software to enable exactly what this scenario portrays, and that is reporting against your on-prem system. So here's how it works. This Remote Data Connector service runs on WebLogic. So if you're going to do this, you do need to run WebLogic in your on-prem network. And the Remote Data Connector service will run within it. And the other thing you'll need in order to use this is you'll need to use the OBIEE on-prem RPD. Let me just explain that for folks who don't speak all that lingo. So OBIEE is the Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. That's Oracle's on-premise business intelligence platform. It's been around for quite a number of years. Very, very powerful. And RPD is a bit of a shorthand that's grown up. That's the file extension for the reporting metadata layer. So this reporting metadata layer, in many senses, is the brains of any BI system because it tells the BI engine, the engine that generates the queries, how the underlying data is related to each other. This table is related to this table in this manner, etc. So it really is the brains. And it is, at the end of the day, just a file and in a client tool that can run on someone's PC, and that's where you do your logical modeling. So you need to use that, and you configure that to connect to the Remote Data Connector service. Then lastly, you would copy that reporting metadata layer from on-premise up into the Oracle Cloud. Now, Oracle has a utility for that called Lift and Shift, and a number of customers using that with very good results. So you copy it up, and then your Cloud BI is now leveraging this OBIEE reporting metadata layer to access your on-prem systems. Again, a number of customers are using this with very good results. So let's talk about this Remote Data Connector. Just one or two more data points. Obviously, it allows you to analyze data in your on-prem system. Now, it supports Oracle SQL Server and Teradata, so it's not just Oracle. If your systems are running on any of these three major databases, BICS Remote Data Connector is going to work. Some other bullets here. Suffice it to say, very secure. It works off a private key, public key type scenario. And at the end of the day, it's the WebLogic server that's connecting to your on-prem database. It's not the cloud directly. It's going to run through your DMZ and then through WebLogic service. So very secure. Just a few data points on OBIEE RPD Lift and Shift. As I said, this is not just a phrase. This is a full-blown utility that Oracle has put forward to allow people to leverage the significant, in many cases, investment that they have in their on-prem OBIEE RPD. So what this allows you to do is take that on-premise reporting metadata layer and move it to the cloud and have the BI Cloud service leverage it as well. When you do that, all of the maintenance will run through that on-premise RPD, and then you copy it to the cloud. If you want to use this OBIEE RPD Lift and Shift and your data is in the cloud, then you do need to use Database as a Service. In other words, you can't have the data in Schema as a Service. You have to be using Database as a Service. If your data is not in the cloud, like in this particular scenario, your data is just on-prem, then you would connect to Remote Data Connector. Okay. So let's talk about, when would you use this scenario? Well, you can't move the data to the cloud. that is less and less the case, but maybe it's not about regulatory. Maybe it's just about initiatives and priorities. Maybe those on-prem systems are close to retirement. Maybe they've been around for quite some time, and it's just not the right time, or doesn't make sense to move that data to the cloud because maybe those systems are going to be replaced. Or you really just don't have any cloud-based systems. Everything's on-prem, and you just want to use BI in the cloud. Or you're requiring real-time access to on-prem transaction data, although there are obviously different ways to be able to solve that one. Another one that we're seeing is, listen, there's a large investment in on-prem OBIEE and potentially a large investment in a data warehouse. Again, you can move the data warehouse to the cloud, but still sometimes that is a driver for this particular scenario. And sometimes what you see is the combination of legacy systems that are close to retirement with an attached database, and for that constellation of systems, the data warehouse is the source of truth. So sometimes there's a decision to kind of leave that alone, leave that where it is, but for other systems, branch out into the cloud. And in that case, you don't want to have, if you can avoid it, multiple BI reporting platforms. So you wind up using BI in the cloud. So benefits, well, you get to leverage your investment in on-prem OBIEE and any investment you might have in an on-prem data warehouse. You'll get real-time reporting if that's a need, right directly against the transaction system. And you'll be ready for analytics on cloud-based systems when they arrive. So you'll have BI in the cloud. As your company branches out to the cloud, you'll be ready to go. You'll be kind of ahead of the curve. So drawbacks, challenges, well, when you use OBIEE lift and shift, you can't use the inbuilt BICS data modeling feature. That's essentially the reporting metadata layer for BICS up in the cloud. Is that a significant drawback? Well, depends how you look at it. The OBIEE reporting metadata layer has been around for years and years and years and is extremely functional. So there's certainly no drawback in terms of functionality. Yes, you do need to copy it up, but it's a fairly straightforward utility to copy. So that's kind of a draw. The reporting workload might remain against the on-prem transaction systems. So in a scenario like this, you may not be moving reporting cycles off your transaction system, which is often a desire. And what are the enabling tools? Well, we've been doing OBIEE work for quite some time. We have a deployment methodology and a best practice library for that OBIEE RPD. What are the best practices? How do you want to set it up to be scalable and performant? And what are the best practices for report development in OBIEE from the most complex down to the simplest? So that would come to bear in a situation like this. All right, now we're going to get into the one with all the check marks. So this is slowly going to become a very complicated slide, but just hang in there. We'll take it slowly. So we're going to start off with on-prem systems and Oracle Cloud systems, Oracle Cloud BI, sorry. We're going to bring in some cloud-based systems, and this, again, is a mix of Oracle and non-Oracle. So we've got Workday, Salesforce, and Oracle Service Cloud. Now, in this scenario, we want to bring some of the on-prem systems, we want to bring them into the cloud and report on. So we have the same ETL and data integration options available to us. We'll go ahead and load those on-prem systems in, and we'll load the cloud-based systems into the cloud. So we're beginning to branch out into the cloud. We've got a unified reporting layer for those on-prem systems and those cloud-based systems. But in this scenario, like I mentioned, sometimes there are some on-prem systems whose data you don't want to move to the cloud. The system perhaps is about to be retired, or whatever the reason is. You really don't want to move any of that to the cloud, but you also don't want to have to keep two different BI platforms going, an on-prem and a cloud-based BI platform. So the good news is fully capable of doing that with Oracle's BI Cloud. So now we bring in the remote data connector service to connect to those on-prem systems. We will also use the OBIEE on-prem RPD, as I mentioned. And having done that, we can then connect, obviously we have to copy it to BICS, we can then connect to these on-prem systems. So we wind up with a lot of lines here, but the good news is the users are shielded from all this complexity, and they're shielded by virtue of this single reporting metadata layer that can be enterprise-wide if you want, that the BI Cloud service is leveraging and allows you to abstract away all the physical complexity and give the users a simple, easy-to-understand interface where they're able to deal with the data that they need to deal with and the systems they need to deal with without having to worry about really where it is physically. All they need to understand is that they have an interface here through BICS that allows them to connect to cloud or on-prem. And on the exact same report, they can have data from a cloud-based system and data from an on-prem-based system. As long as those two systems are relatable from a data perspective, and it's built into this reporting metadata layer. So it can be very powerful and simplifying for the end user. So let's talk about, when this scenario comes into play. This is, as you can imagine, bringing together some of the previous scenarios into one. So on the on-prem side, where we're reporting on-prem, again, systems close to retirement, a data warehouse that you want to keep on-prem. You've got a large investment in on-prem OBIEE, and in this case, where you basically have to use OBIEE lift and shift, you have to use that on-prem OBIEE RPD for cloud and on-prem. Having an investment in OBIEE is really a great way to use this scenario. As I mentioned, you can shield users from source system complexity. You might want to use this when you can't move some of your data to the cloud. You need real-time access. And as is quite common, you need analytics combining both cloud and on-prem. And as I said, it's a great way to essentially virtualize your reporting away from the physical layer. So what are the benefits? Well, there's a common BI platform across cloud and on-prem. You don't have to keep both running. Simplified end-user experience, so that gets into training, that gets into technology skill sets, so simple across the board. Enterprise reporting metadata layer, that's something that we do like to stress. Self-service, agility, departmental nimbleness is absolutely critical. At the same time, it is important to kind of keep your eye on the ball with respect to enterprise reporting, certainly as you get up into senior management, and this supports that. Federated reporting against cloud and on-prem. We talked about that. You can have a single report that shows data from the cloud and on-prem. Single dashboard that combines both. So you don't really have to worry about where everything is. Less maintenance, you get to leverage your investment, and you can move incrementally. Again, that's a theme. Very hard to go to the cloud and big bang, so all these scenarios really support an incremental migration to the cloud. Some of the drawbacks and challenges, well, we kind of mentioned them. If you're using OBIEE lift and shift, you can't use the BICS data model, and you need to run all your maintenance through the RPD, and you might be keeping some of that workload in on-prem transaction systems. This workload in the on-prem transaction system, there are many ways around that. There are replication strategies. Not really going to go into it in this particular session, but there are many ways to address that. As I mentioned, we have a number of pre-built integrations from cloud-based systems into BICS. We have full-blown application accelerators and a number of utilities. So lots we can help out with there. So now let's talk about this fifth scenario, which is also a very exciting and interesting scenario. So it's great to have a lot of options, and that is really another one of the main themes for today. There's a lot of ways to get to the cloud, and the maturity in the past, I would say probably 2 years, maybe 2.5, has been really astounding, and I think it really gets to the innovation in the cloud. So let's talk about this. So what are the Oracle BI apps? Perhaps most folks are aware, but just in case. So Oracle BI apps are pre-built analytical applications from Oracle. They use Oracle ERP, on-prem Oracle P as the data source. So that would be PeopleSoft, eBusiness Suite, or JD Edwards. Those are the data sources. They come with pre-built ETL to pull out of those data sources into a pre-built data model that's optimized for reporting. Pre-built report metadata layer. So that OBIEE RPD is built out extensively. Hundreds of reports, hundreds of metrics. This has been on the market since about 2006, so you're looking at about 10 years. So very mature product covering all the major functional areas, HR, finance, everything. So very, very mature product, long history of use, successful use. Now, historically deployed fully on-premise. So let's talk about platform as a service. What is platform as a service? Well, it's an Oracle Cloud Service, suppose that's obvious. That combines their database cloud service, so you get the full functionality and feature-rich Oracle database, a compute service, so CPU, memory, etc. And storage. So basically everything from an infrastructure and database and application service standpoint to run applications. So you can think of it as running the BI apps on a different set of computing resources. So rather than running in your own company's data center, you're taking that on-prem BI apps and all the components and all the features, and you're running it basically on the cloud, on Oracle's cloud, which is a different set of computing resources. So let's talk about how Oracle does this. So I'll start off with our on-prem systems, eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards. So Oracle's going to give you a compute instance, or frankly more than one if you so desire that. And on that compute instance, you're going to have all the components of the on-prem BI application. And I'm just going to list some of them here. You'll have a WebLogic domain, the configuration manager, where you do all the configuration for those applications, functional setup manager where you do things like set up how the chart of accounts will be rendered, what your aging is for receivables, all those good kind of things that you do for on-premise analytics. The load plan generator is about ETL loads. And the ODI server, and that's important, this compute instance will be running Oracle Data Integrator, the full-fledged ETL tool from Oracle, Oracle Data Integrator. You're also going to get database as a service. That is part of Oracle Platform as a Service, as I mentioned. And on that, you'll have two repositories. You'll have one for SDS, that's Source Data Store. I'll explain that in a moment. And you will have the BICS Data Warehouse. That's the pre-built data warehouse. Many subject areas in that data warehouse across virtually every functional area you can think of, okay? You will also have cloud-based storage, and you'll be using BICS. So this is maybe one difference from the truly on-prem. If you deployed Oracle BICS on-premise, you'd be using OBIEE. Here you're using BICS. BICS will connect to DBAS and will be reporting against DBAS. So let's talk about how you get the data into this BICS on PaaS. So the very first thing you're going to do is replicate, and you can use Oracle BICS Data Sync, you could use Golden Gate, you can really use any kind of replication technology to move the data into this source data store. So this is replication. There's no transformation here, really just replicating the data. So the data is going to reside in this SDS in the same structure and format that it would have resided in your on-premise system. And then from that point, it's basically business as usual in terms of the on-prem BI apps. You're going to run the ODI ETL, that's Oracle Data Integrator, the extract, transform, and load scripts to pull the data out, just like you would on-premise. And that right there, that ODI ETL and the data warehouse is one of the big value propositions of Oracle's on-premise BI apps. It's not that easy to dive into these systems and pull out the data. And there's a very strong and rich data warehouse. There's a lot of intellectual property there, and you're really leveraging it in this scenario. Then, in order to use this, should be no surprise now, you'd be using the OBIEE on-prem client administration tool. Now, when you buy the BI apps, as I said, you get a reporting metadata layer with literally hundreds of reports and metrics, and that's what this is. So it kind of makes sense that you would be using it and leveraging it. So you go ahead and copy that to BICS. Now, as I said, you get hundreds of reports. Those reports for BI apps, they're stored in what's called the web catalog. It's also referred to as the presentation catalog. So what Oracle has done is provided a one-time copy. So there's a one-time copy into BICS for that. So you get all those reports available. So, at the end of this, you're basically running the on-prem BI apps. You're running it in Oracle's cloud. You're basically leveraging all of those reports and metrics and pre-built ETL. Now let's talk about, let's say you do this and you have some Oracle SaaS application and you're wanting to include those in the warehouse as well. That's no problem. Oracle does not supply pre-built ETL for that, but of course you can create that. And the suggested approach, not the only approach, is to use Oracle's cloud adapters and replicate into this SDS, and then from there, go ahead and run ODI ETL, Oracle Data Integrator in an ETL. So basically leveraging ODI for all the ETL needs for this particular data warehouse. So yet another option available. As I say, very, very good to have options. So let's talk about, when would you do this? So let's say you're already running on-prem BI apps and you want to change platforms. So you could essentially migrate to Oracle PaaS, and that would get you to Platform as a Service. And maybe you want to do that because you want to leverage your existing investment in BI apps. BI apps, again, it's very, very powerful, but it's not uncommon that sometimes some reports need to be customized. Maybe there's some unique requirements of a company that require some ETL to be customized. So you want to leverage those. You've already made them and you want to leverage them. You can do that in this scenario. And if you're looking at a new analytic deployment, you might do this because you really need and want the full breadth of the functionality and reporting that BI apps provide you. As I say, hundreds of reports and metrics. So the benefits, well, you're leveraging any previous investments that you have. You get the benefit of this mature analytic product. As I say, it's been out there since about 2006 with hundreds of reports. And you get the cloud-based benefits of BICS, so all that flexibility and agility with the rich content. It's really about content with those on-prem BI apps. So drawbacks, challenges, well, there's some new platforms and utilities, but not new in the sense of brand new or not trusted and tried, but, relatively new, let's say. So Platform as a Service and RPD, but there are many customers using both of these. You can't use the BICS data model features. You're using OBIEE and running that through. And I suppose you can make an argument there's an extra step to replicate the data to the cloud where you replicate it into that source data store and then run the ETL. But true, it is replication. Normally doesn't take very long at all. In terms of enabling platforms and tools, well, Apps Associates as an accelerated deployment methodology for BI apps, which we have been using for many years now, and we would continue to use that in this kind of scenario. So lots of information there, I know, lots of information. As Julian said, we're going to share these slides, and this will be recorded, but wanted to let you know that there are many ways to get to the cloud and lots of benefits. So let's try to summarize. There's lots of stuff, but really we'll try to boil it down to this one slide. Okay, so if we're using Oracle BICS and we want to report against an on-prem transaction system or an on-prem data warehouse, either one, same thing. We would use Oracle's remote data connector. We would use the OBIEE lift and shift. That's where we maintain the OB reporting metadata layer on-premise and copy it to BICS. And then we would use BICS and that OBIEE for reporting. It's relatively straightforward. If we wanted to report against a cloud-based transaction system, well, it kind of depends what kind of system it is, but relatively straightforward nonetheless. So if it's Oracle SaaS and it's got OTBI, or it's Salesforce.com, or it's Service Cloud, BICS Data Sync can connect to those systems using OTBI endpoints, in other words, leveraging that metadata layer as a window into the objects of that system, pull that data out, send it over to BICS. And BICS can do that multiple times a day, even kind of like a trickle feed thing. So you can support reporting on a near real-time basis, let's say near real-time basis, using BICS Data Sync. If you want to connect directly from data visualization and run reports, just run a report right against those systems using those OTBI endpoints, you can do that. And at that point, you're literally just reporting against those Oracle SaaS systems. So that's real-time access. Some of the other cloud-based systems that are non-Oracle, like NetSuite or Workday, well, you would need to extract from those systems. And, that can vary exactly how you're going to do that. Workday has a front end for that, where you basically connect and pull out the objects that you want. But once you've got the data, you can use BICS Data Sync to load it in, or you can create your own REST API. Then, of course, if you've got a cloud-based data warehouse, so you're up and running on, say, either Schema as a service or database as a service, you've done all the heavy lifting to get the data into that warehouse. Well, that's very, very straightforward. BICS obviously will directly connect to that. So that's kind of a quick summarization. I'll go through some of our tools and accelerators very quickly. So as I mentioned, we've got accelerators for finance, order to cash, forecast, delivery, procure to pay, and hire to retire, as well as CRM. And we also have a retail analytics accelerator. So these are full-blown applications with reports, dashboards, data model, security, et cetera. So full-blown. The other utilities that we have and we can leverage to get you up and running on the cloud quickly are these utilities to get off some of those older reporting platforms, FSG, Discover, IRBO, and also pre-built cloud integrations. So we've tried to focus on, for instance, Salesforce and Workday and some of the more common Oracle SaaS applications. Okay. So what are the next steps? Well, what we can do is we will provide a complimentary assessment of your current BI environment, and then we'll provide some recommendations for leveraging the cloud. So we'll come out, we'll spend a few hours, we'll kind of go through lay of your land, and then take it back, think about it, and present you with some recommendations. So we do that on a complimentary basis. If you're interested in that, please contact me at this email, and we'll go ahead and schedule your visit. Okay, so that's it. Thank you. That was, like I say, lots of information, but lots of options. Julian, did we have any questions come in?
Well, hi, Miles. Thank you. That was a great presentation. We have a couple of questions for you. One was that you described several accelerators that Apps Associates has developed to make this move to the cloud a lot faster and easier for customers. But do you have any clients that are currently using those accelerators or have used them for their migration?
Oh, sure. Yes, we have a number of clients that are up and running and live on our accelerators, and leveraging the functionality of BI Cloud Service. One of the customers, a real strong EBS customer, and they had quite a large number of FSGs. And our utility to get the FSGs over to BICS with the appropriate hierarchies and the appropriate column sets and row sets was really a key to that particular deployment. I know you asked about accelerators, but I might also mention that we've got a customer leveraging BICS called Outfront Media, and this is the customer that Apps Associates won the award for. So there's a very interesting story there. They started off with Schema as a service. They wanted to get up and running very, very quickly, and the story goes that within 2 weeks they'd loaded their data and they were showing the CFO financial information on the iPad that had been validated back to the source system. So that got some kind of good feedback going, and it expanded from there. And they went from Schema as a service. They're now running database as a service, and they continue to bring more analytics into the cloud. And so it's been very, very, very positive story there. And we're in flight with a number of other customers as we speak, deploying the accelerators.
That's great. Thank you. And there was one other question, which is one that we hear quite a lot when we talk about the cloud, which is you talked about remote data connector being very secure, but how secure is the cloud itself? How secure is BI Cloud Service?
Okay. So BI Cloud Service comes with a fairly robust security model. And when I say BI Cloud Service, I'm really talking about Oracle's BI Cloud offering, so that would include Schema as a service as well as database as a service. We have had some customers who, in order to use this cloud-based BI, had to go through kind of a security audit, successfully, I might add. So the BI Cloud Service comes with its own inbuilt security if you so desire using that. So you can set up your users in the cloud. It comes with an automatic single sign-on for any cloud-based application. So if I'm using the BI Cloud Service as well as Oracle Financial Cloud or HCM Cloud, it comes with an automatic single sign-on. Also comes with the ability to integrate with an on-premise single sign-on provider, maybe like a SiteMinder or something like that. Relatively straightforward to set it up so that your on-premise single sign-on can include Cloud BI. Also, you can integrate with your, if you so desire again, you can integrate with your on-premise Active Directory. So maybe you're doing that just for authentication. Maybe you've got Active Directory built out where you've got different groups with different access capabilities. So you can integrate with your Active Directory, leverage Active Directory, take those groups in Active Directory and map those to an application role in BI, and thereby limit people to certain reports or even certain types of data within the report. So very strong security, and it's really a prerequisite for being able to use it. So okay.
Well, thank you, Miles, and thank you, everybody. We've reached the end of our time today. So thank you very much for attending. We'll be sharing the slides that Miles presented today, as well as a recording of this session. So look out for that in your email. And thank you very much.